friends, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing with you some of my favorite picture books, and because many of you requested to see our favorite picture books, I'm going to do one of these per season. When a new season arrives, you guys can watch these videos and get some ideas on what to check out from the library or what to find online when you're trying to look for new books for your children. So today I'm going to start with autumn. And I was having a hard time because I have a lot of favorite books. And as I was trying to go through them and choose what I would show you today, I was starting to pick up winter books. And I said to myself, no, you need to wait until winter and then you can share your favorite winter picture books. So I'm going to share with you my favorite fall picture books. We read these every year, so they are tried and true books. They're ones that we have read many times after checking them out from the library, and then we've realized we need to add these to our personal collection. So here we go. So when I'm picking a fall book, I usually gravitate towards trees, leaves, changing seasons, colors, of course, like fall themed books. And then obviously there's your pumpkin books, but I think some of the most underrated books are the apple books in fall, because October you do a lot of pumpkin heavy things, right? But in September, which is the date that it is today for us, it's September 17th or something. Apples are kind of an uncharted territory when it comes to books. So I always try to pull out all my apple books right away, especially like late August when I'm ready to switch over to all things fall, but I'm not quite ready to see the pumpkin books yet. So these are the ones I go for. And then like I said, I look for like tree themed books, fall things, birds. I have fall bird books, so I'm going to share everything with you now. Alright, so this one is one of our favorites. It's called Apples to Oregon. It is by Deborah Hopkinson and Nancy Carpenter. And if your children like Little House on the Prairie, this is a pioneer family, so it's very cute. And it's all about how they brought apples from Iowa all the way to Oregon, and it's one of our favorites. Next, I always like to throw in some nonfiction style books. This is one of my favorite authors who does not themed, but like topics in nonfiction style. Betsy Maestro is her name. And this one is How Do Apples Grow? So it actually has just illustrations about the apples, about how they blossom, where they come from, and it also talks about the varieties of apples that you can find. So this one's really cute. And then I also have How to Make an Apple Pie and See the World, and this one's fun because at the end they have a recipe for an apple pie and you can make it with your children. I love books that are all about sharing recipes. Thunder Cake by Patricia Polacco is one of our favorites, and then A Fine Dessert also has a recipe in the back that's about blackberries. I almost included it in this one, but I think I included it in one of my other videos, so I didn't include it in this one. But it's one of my favorites. This one is also great. It's just kind of pulling together all the ingredients for an apple pie, and then you guys can make one together after you read it. Alright, moving along, let's see, we're going to do this one next. This one is Ox Cart Man. A lot of you guys have probably heard of it, but it's just one of our favorite books. It's such a beautiful story about seasonal living, and you really could read it any time of the year, but for some reason I always pull it out in the fall. This is by Donald Hall, and pictures are by Barbara Cooney, and you may be familiar with her. She also illustrated the book Miss Rumpus. And so it's one of our favorites also, but that is more of a spring book. So yeah, this is beautiful though. I love all the illustrations, and it really just kind of is a nod to seasonal living. So it's very beautiful. Next, I have some of my favorite tree books. This one is called Because of an Acorn by Lola Schaefer. And it's a very simple, short book, but it talks about how an acorn becomes a tree, an oak tree specifically. And you can talk about the plant life cycle as you read this, so it's always fun. My girls really like this one. And then I like to throw in a nonfiction one, as I said before. This is a take-along guide by Diane Burns called Trees, Leaves, and Bark. And this just talks about the different types of trees. There's the ash, the hickory, the juniper tree, and it just talks about its uses, how big they can get, and it's all of those like facts that you want to learn about common trees in your neighborhood or on your trails, wherever you may be in nature. So it's a good one to have. The next one is The Story of the Root Children by Sybil von Ulfers. I could only find this small version. I was really sad. I would love to have a bigger version, but it's a really, really beautiful story. Also very seasonal-esque. The children live underneath the ground, and then Mother Earth lets them out during the warmer season, and then they go back down underneath the ground for the winter. But it's a very beautiful seasonal living book too. And then here we have a library book. We used to have a copy of this, but I couldn't find it. My children love it so much that they wanted to check it out from the library last time I went to the library. Lois Ehlert is my 4-year-old's favorite author right now. She writes really simple books, but I wouldn't say that they're twaddle. They're just more simple. And they have a lot of information in them, but they're beautiful illustrations too. So this is Growing Vegetable Soup, and it's a great one if you guys have a garden or want to start a garden in the fall. And it's just kind of very colorful. But yeah, it talks about the different fall vegetables, and you can even make your own vegetable soup with your kids, have them help you chop veggies after. There's another fall book by Lois Ehlert called Red Leaf, Yellow Leaf, and that's a really good one. I just couldn't find it either. So that's also on my fall list. And then we have a few bird books. I always have bird books in my house. And in our book basket. This is Have You Heard the Nesting Bird? And we have a lot of spring bird books, but I always pull this out in the fall. I don't know why. Yeah, there's all kinds of different birds in here. So definitely a good one. We love this any time of year, honestly. Oh, and also this is by Rita Gray, and pictures are by Kennard Pack. And he also wrote Goodbye Summer, Hello Autumn. I think he illustrated it, or maybe he wrote it too. I'll have to double check on that. It's a good one to read in autumn because it's called Goodbye Summer, Hello Autumn. And then we have this book. This is by Gail Gibbons, and she's one of my other favorite nonfiction style writers for picture books. This just has a ton of information about owls, and we don't celebrate Halloween in our house, so you won't see Halloween books in this little set. I do pumpkin books though, and I love to do owls at this time of year because nighttime and fall, and it starts to get darker earlier, so we read about owls quite a bit, and it just gives you information about the different types of owls. So it's a good one. And then the other one that is not a nonfiction book, but it's also an owl book, is Owl Moon by Jane Yolen. Jane Yolen's one of my favorite authors. She's wonderful. All of her picture books, I don't know if there's a bad one, to be honest. We have most of them. And Owl Moon we always read in the fall, late fall. It's winter in the book, actually, technically, but it's okay. We have a lot of winter books, so we use this one in the fall when we read about owls. And it's just a beautiful story of a little girl and her father birding together and her memories of that. So it's very precious. And then Jane Yolen also wrote another book that I think we do not have in our library, but we check it out every year from the public library, and that is called The Scarecrow's Dance. It is as Halloween as we get in this house, but it's a very beautiful book, and it's not really Halloween themed at all, but it's more spooky and kind of poetic. I wouldn't say spooky. Spooky is the wrong word. It's poetic and sort of solemn. It's solemn, but it's a very beautiful book, and my husband actually loves to read it, so he reads that to the girls every year. And so that's also by Jane Yolen, who wrote Owl Moon. I've got 2 more for you, and like I said, this was hard to narrow down. Oh, 3. There's 3. This is Pell's New Suit by Elsa Biscow. You could read it in the spring, but I always read it in the fall. I don't know. It's just a beautiful story of a little boy who builds a suit for himself, or rather wants to have a new suit. And so he goes to different makers, the tailor, the yarn spinner, and he goes to people in his community and trades he trades work. Like he works for them while they help work on his suit. So there he is dyeing the wool. And it's just a beautiful picture, very similar to Oxcart Man, of, you know, working for what you have and leaning into the seasons and working with your community and buying and selling within your community locally versus just grabbing something on Amazon. Our children probably aren't familiar with this type of lifestyle anymore, but it's our job to familiarize them with it because there's so much value to it still. And so I really want them to be familiar with where their clothing comes from, how much work it takes to dye a garment and to put it together and sew it, and to care for it. So that kind of goes through this in a very beautiful, poetic children's book way. And I love the work ethic of this little boy. I mean, look at him. He's feeding the baby while he asks I think it's his mother, yes, to weave the cloth for him, and there's a weaver. And I don't know, shout out to those of you who love baby wearing and wraps, because I was a huge baby wearing fan, and I had woven wraps that were woven on a loom like this. So I see this and I get so excited because I love fiber art. Someday I'll have a loom. Anyway, so yeah, and then there's his little new suit. It's cute, but I admire his work ethic, so I think it's a good one for kids to read. All right, and then a couple of pumpkin books. I could go on and on about the pumpkin books, honestly, and you will probably see videos of picture books with a million pumpkin books. So I wanted to show you some of the more non-conventional fall books. And I'll try to add a couple more pumpkin books that we like and have to the list that I'm going to leave in the blog post that goes with this video. But this is a fun one. This one's called From Seed to Pumpkin. It's all about how a pumpkin seed ends up as a pumpkin. So very self-explanatory, but it's a cute one. And then let's see, this is the last one. It truly is sort of difficult to find pumpkin books that aren't Halloween themed. Some of them are, yeah, sometimes it's just hard to do that. And so I like this one because this is about as Halloween as it gets. Jamie scooped the pumpkin, scoop out the pumpkin pulp, carved a pumpkin face and put it in the window. So that's about it. And there's like a little jack-o'-lantern, but there's no mention of Halloween. And it just talks about how when he scooped out the seeds, he saved them to plant next spring. So it's a very simple book with beautiful illustrations. And he just watches the pumpkin grow. So it's a good one. I would say if you don't celebrate Halloween, you can probably add this to your collection comfortably. So, all right, well, that is it. Those are all the fall books I wanted to show you today. I hope that this was a helpful video to you. If you liked this one, I will try to share with you some of my favorite books later this, probably late fall, so you can check them out or purchase them for the winter, maybe in November sometime. And yeah, I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you in the next video.